We're like actually opposites in what we're
Yeah,
working.
it worked.
So, welcome everybody to the AI Double Take. It's me, Tom Martin, CEO of LawDroid, along with our chief legal futurist, Satish Nori. How's it going, Satish?
Hey, Tom, great to be here. It's week 2 at LawDroid, and I'm really excited to kick off this new venture, including this podcast.
Yeah, me too. And like to lay it out for everyone, the purpose of this podcast is real simple. It's just casual. It's me and Satish hanging out, talking about what happened for the week, keeping you in the loop, and hopefully there's something interesting that we mentioned while while we're talking. Um, But yeah, the idea of double take, it's two of us, and also looking back at what happened during the week. So we hope you join us weekly. First thing is just welcome aboard. It's great to have you on board LawDroid. And already things were abuzz with you coming on board. We were at ITC and got a great reception.
Yeah, it's been, I think, 10 days since I've started. I've already been in Utah, Salt Lake City, and Provo, and San Antonio, and back home in New York in between twice. So much has happened, and so many people have reached out about being excited about the work that we're going to do together. And so I'm really, really happy, to be on this journey with you, and to look back on like what we've learned just in 10 days.
Yeah, I mean, like we met, it's a few years ago now, like, back in New York City, and it was with the American Legal Technology Awards, and the work that you had done was like so impressive, and went and we got to meet in person, and I've just been a big fan of everything you've been doing. We got to work together on Depositron, and like, you know, that was so cool working with you because I think that we're pretty like-minded and being like mission oriented and wanting to do good in the world. And, it makes it a lot different than regular legal tech. It's not just, hey, AI, slap it on something and get it out there and try to, raise a ton of money and go big. It's really about heart, and it's about, wanting to help people. So it's a pleasure to get to work with you.
Yeah, likewise. And I think one of the things that I like about working with you, and what I noticed early on, is that you cut right to the chase. There isn't a lot of nonsense. And, we don't have time for it personally, but also this work that we're doing is too important to spend in meetings and committees and, with, funders and stakeholders, and bringing everybody on board. Sometimes you just have to lead by doing. And I think that's really, a big part of the way that you work. And so the way we built Depositron together, in any other situation would have taken years. And you and I together did it in 3 or 4 months. So it's that kind of thinking that really, draws me to working with you and seeing what more we can do along those lines. It's really exciting for me. So thank you.
Well, I think that way of doing it where somebody takes point and they kind of show what's possible. Um, it helps everyone else to realize that because sometimes it's not clear, what is possible. Especially right now, things are changing so much. It's almost every day I see a new, AI research paper come out, which changes our assumptions of what's possible. Like to speak of ITC, like we just got back from that last week, San Antonio, and there was so much talk, so many sessions about AI. And the big difference for me over the past few years has been how practical it was. It was like really like nuts and bolts. This is how we did it. This is how you could do it. We shared some of our own stuff with Voice Intake and Legal Information Assistant that's been out there for a couple years now. But what was your sense of it? Like, what was the vibe that you were getting from the people and the sessions that you saw?
Yeah, there was a transformation in the way people were thinking about things from just a year ago at ITC in Phoenix. And I think you captured it. And it is that people are open to it. They're actually seeking out ways to improve the way they serve their clients and constituents. And a year before, maybe 2 years ago, it was more, what is this? Why do we need this? How is this different? And how much does it cost? Does it really work? Those were really primary questions. Here, this year in San Antonio, most people were thinking, let's use it. What do we do? What's the first step? How does it work in this context? Much more specific, much more action oriented. And to see a community like the legal aid community be that forward thinking is rare. It's not common. ITC was a fringe thing for many years. I only got to go to it recently in 20 years of practice. Only in the last couple of years was I even aware of ITC because most legal aid lawyers don't even know it exists. But now we're seeing it be really at the forefront of serving clients in terms of technology, AI, process. Um, that's a really big change, and that's exciting. And what will next year's ITC be like? Will there be panels, driven by bots? Will there be, demos that we can't even imagine right now? It's really exciting to think. And really, what does it all mean? It means like more mission-centered work, right? Helping more people, helping maybe bridge that justice gap a little bit more.
Well, I mean, that's the hope. Help more people, but also do it responsibly and reliably. And of course, that's been a big, debate for years. But I think, the technology's matured to a point where it's good enough. Like it's there. It's not perfect, but it is definitely there for production and helping people. Um, something else about ITC is that the exposure, Bob Ambrogi was there. That was his second year that he was there. It was fantastic to see him. Like I know his flight canceled a few times, so he really stuck to it to make it to ITC. But like the exposure, like the eyes on access to justice that come with Bob, um, really helps to promote that this is something we all need to focus on. And I think especially with things are in the world right now, that focusing on justice is a high priority. Um,
Yeah, yeah. And I got to have dinner with Bob in San Antonio and, some other people. And he was talking about this column he had written a couple of years ago about ITC, having just gone to Legal Week, I think, in Chicago, and then coming to ITC right after. And his column was called A Tale of Two Conferences. And the differences were so stark back then that, Legal Week was so forward thinking, lots of tech, lots of innovation, and ITC was so kind of stuck in terms of how little resources were available, how little options we were discussing, how few options we were talking about in terms of moving things forward. And I think now he saw much less of a difference. Like we're basically on the same page with big law and big corporations on tech, right? At least, not what we can spend, but the type of tech that's available to us. There's definitely been a leveling of that playing field, that marketplace, because I think the tech is much more accessible now. It's cheaper, it's easier to build, it's easier to understand, it's easier to see the applications. And that wasn't the case even just 2 or 3 years ago.
yeah, I think it's definitely democratized a bit. Vibe coding is a thing, and I think it's wonderful that more people get to participate. Um, I mean, there's so much change afoot, but I do want to point out that although, of course, I'm a techno optimist, I am practical about it. And I think that, one thing you and I talked about is AI is not the solution for everything. Um, in one of my articles and LawDroid Manifesto, but augmented lawyer over there was Sateesh, like there are two great Substacks to check out beyond. Got to get it in there.
Yeah, plug.
But yeah, a little plug. But the idea of this thing called the intelligence razor, kind of like Occam's razor, but the idea is that for whatever you're trying to accomplish, whatever solution you're trying to create, use the dumbest tool first, and then and only then, if you need something more sophisticated, use that. because AI is not fit to purpose for everything. There's some things that are really still reliable. Conditional logic is, you know, right on for a lot of document automation applications and other things. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
and
Have you? Yeah.
we're on the same wavelength on that because I once wrote about this thing, this philosophical concept. I know you're a philosophy major in college called Heidegger's hammer. And we spoke about it once about, the tool being the extension of the hand of the person wielding the tool. And if you think of it that way, it really is an augmenting thing. It's an amplifying thing. And so we shouldn't like worship the tool itself, in this case, AI. We should see the tool as the extension of the person wielding the tool and increasing the capacity of that person. And when you put the tool down, it has no humanity, it has no purpose. It only has a purpose when it's wielded by us for our intended goals. And if our intended goals are worthy goals like access to justice, the tool can do a lot for us. And so not only using the simplest tool, but using the tool as an extension of ourselves in the appropriate way with our own humanity and ethics and judgment, I think is what we both believe in. And so like we're right on the same wavelength here when we're talking about applying these tools, this new technology to these very difficult problems that we're facing.
Yeah, I mean, it still remains in our hands. Like
Yeah.
it's not doing the thing on its own. Like we're still, in the loop. We're holding it. We're responsible for
Yeah.
it. We get to guide it. So it almost makes you an augmented lawyer, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's where it all came from, I guess, philosophically speaking.
Yeah. Um, I want to talk, if you could talk a little bit about the tortoise and the hare situation that came up this week. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. I was writing a piece earlier on in the week, and maybe I kind of knew the universe was going in this direction, or it's just dumb luck. But the idea of the foundational models um, being kind of slow and steady, but so powerful, and all around them, kind of like gnats around a flame, are these wrapper companies that we all see and hear about all day long. These very kind of purpose-built AI legal tools, for example, that do one or two things really well. They have a slick UI. They got a lot of marketing around them. And, Big Law, for example, is gobbling these things up. But then this week, just as I was posting that, the news came out that Anthropic had introduced some new co-working or co-work features that kind of do some of the things already natively within Anthropic, within Claude, that some of these wrapper companies are selling to people. And so to me, it's like this giant standing like, Gulliver among the Lilliputians. And the giant just has to move its foot like a millimeter. And that is so drastic for the landscape of the Lilliputians like us, everybody else. And it wipes out these companies. Stock values of like Thomson Reuters are dipping. You talk about the big legal AI companies that got to be worried. And so, from our perspective, what do we make of this? Well, you got to think about like you suggested, what's the simplest tool for the job? Like, do we need to build something new? How can we adapt that tool? And when we adapt it, what are the priorities for our clients? In the legal aid case, it's going to be a lot about safety. It's going to be about accuracy and confidentiality because they're legal matters typically we're working with. So I think there's a lot to learn. Like we all kind of got a, you know, bucket of cold water thrown on us this week. And I think those of us in the space for the right reasons, hopefully, we saw this coming and we said, yeah, we told you, you don't need all these toys. You just need to think simply and clearly about what you need and what's the right thing for you. And sometimes it's a tool that is a third party tool. Sometimes it's just an API that's very simple. You have a little moat that you've curated and built, and you move forward that way. So, kind of an interesting week in the space.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a shock to the system, just like last year. DeepSeek's R1 was, a reasoning model that was pretty amazing. Kind of set everyone on edge. And NVIDIA stock, I think at the time was what went down. But for legal tech companies out there, like I I definitely feel for you because you're wanting to make headway and you're getting attacked by two sides like you have, like you said, like the giant foundation models that are like making changes that are gobbling up some of that potential market share. And then on the other side of it, you have, lawyers that are vibe coding and creating like these solutions
Mhm.
on
Yeah.
their own. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I think it really comes down to what it's always come down to. Like it's about trust, it's about relationships. It's not just about software. You can't make it just about software. Um, and also education. And I think that, especially in the access to justice world, that's something that comes naturally is pairing all of this together with education. As I know you've gone out and talked to people about AI and law, and I have as well. And we were both professors. Um, you know, you at NYU and me at Suffolk Law. I One other thing I want to get in the time that we have left is
Mm.
you mentioned it. It was a Damien had brought this up, Damien Real. And it's the idea of there's bots running wild right now. I don't know if you all have heard of it, but there's this project called OpenClaw, and you could spin up an agent really quickly that could kind of work autonomously. And there was something that happened. What was that about?
Yeah, there's also this thing called Molt, I think, which is like a social network for bots where bots can engage with each other.
Yeah,
And
Molt.
so, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And so the thought experiment is like, what happens if the bots need humans? Like, do they then hire us? Like, they might hire a DoorDash person. So they create the thing, but they
oh
need
man,
someone in the real world to go do the thing. So we
yeah,
become the agents of the bots as they create things and produce things. And then so I think Damien spun up or vibe coded a website called like Human in Real Life or something where bots could hire us and there'd be little profile pictures of humans on the bottom and
wow,
they could say, "Hey, can you go into XYZ place?" Like I filled out the driver's license application. It's done, but I need a human to go pick it up because there's no other way to do it. So I'll pay you $10 or whatever, an hourly rate to go in real life to do that. And like we end up working for the bots. And so it's interesting, right? Like when you call an Uber, like somebody had posed this question, you know, is it really a human to human thing? Or did the app hire a human for you, right? Like, are we already in this place? Like, if you don't
yeah,
talk to your Uber driver, you know, is it the app that hired them or did you hire them? And that relationship, is it through that, interface? It's not really between you and the other human, right? So, in a sense, we're already kind of in this place where the tech is hiring people who are, the meat bags. It's a terrible term for people,
wow.
and we're already doing things for tech. We're delivering things. We are driving people places. We are doing tasks for people through apps, right? So isn't it that the app's already hiring us? Interesting question.
Yeah, a little philosophical there, Satish, and a little scary, frankly, But in some ways, it's been like that for a while with Facebook kind of mining us for information, and you know, um, kind of, we all get like a little addicted to the phone, and when it beeps, following up, with whatever's going on. So there's a lot to think about. That's the past week of what's been going on. I think that
Yeah.
there's lots of cool vibes and literally vibe coding going on, AI agents running wild. All right, everyone. Well, take it easy.